Hey, everybody, welcome to Tune In and Find the Others. My name is Tony Guerin, and this is the first podcast uh, that I've ever done. It's the first episode, and I'm excited to bring on Ashton Robertson of Spaceship Earth. He goes by the stage name Spaceship Earth, and he is a social media influencer. He's a musician. He blends his guitar very beautifully with his DJ. He's got a very unique style, and we'll put his stuff in the description below. So yeah, Ashton, how you doing today?
I'm doing super good, dude. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, it's cool. It's I've never I've done something with like my phone before, where like it was kind of cool. I had a human that I was connecting with, and we were just
Yeah,
talking back and forth. Um, and like we recorded it, and I played some music to it too, but nothing really serious. Um, so it's really cool to like really try to make this, a my job and treat it as such. So along with music, because we're in crazy times, and with the pandemic, you don't know if there's going to be a shutdown soon or in the next 2 months or whatever. So I felt like this is honestly the most sustainable thing to invest into, that could build from the ground up in something that I'm passionate about. So thanks for helping as being the first person that's on this.
absolutely. I love the concept and the platform of being able to just use your voice to get not only your message, but all those that you want to, bring on the podcast. And I think you're spot on. Like obviously there's a pandemic and you never know what could happen again. So being able to be online and stay there and that's consistent, it's like any job is really unstable right now.
Right. And especially, I mean, as a musician, you know this very well. All the musicians, the people that are in the performing arts field are all taking a severe hit, and it's very disturbing. I mean, watching people really struggling that were already struggling um, to make ends meet and have their passions be a form of income. It's like, God, now it's like you can't have concerts, and you have to find ways to be creative.
Seriously. And I mean, music, just kind of like you said, people were already struggling from the transition from being able to like sell CDs into streaming over the last, 2 or 3 decades. And now, like most musicians rely on gigs, they rely on shows. And
And
so
merch
it's,
too. When
and merch,
you have to have a show and then be able to sell
right.
merch there because they have the direct experience of seeing you and like, oh man, I really like this artist, I want their merch. But then you don't have that anymore.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of the last industries to come back, sadly. I mean, we already see, restaurants and stuff reopening, but you don't see big concert venues opening. So,
Yeah. So how are you? What's your music been like? What's your you just moved to back to Detroit or Ipsy? I can't remember where exactly you're from.
yeah, I've been living in Denver the last year. And when the virus hit, I had a housing situation kind of fall through because they actually lost their jobs. So my lease was ending, and I just decided to come back to Michigan for the summer. I'm actually in Fenton, Michigan, where
Okay.
my family is. Nice little small town. But I'm good. I mean, it's definitely been interesting since everything happened. And with music, I did a lot of live streaming and more music writing. And it's definitely been like you have to be on your feet and be adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly, in some ways, been good for my music and been good for like my body and my mental health because I get to take a break. But at the same time, it's been so crazy and confusing. So
Yeah. Oh man, I could not agree with you more with the mental part of this, and it's honestly, it's been so traumatizing, but also so rewarding to
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like you're in that space of at least during the quarantine when it was like heavy stay at home order,
Yeah.
at least where we are in Michigan, it was catalyzing to like you're home all day. You have to figure out how to you don't have a job anymore. You have to figure out
Yeah.
how to function as a human being without the normal life as you knew it. And it's almost yeah, to be like a way that I kind of connect to it. It's like it's almost like a psychedelic. It like rips you
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It like rips you out of your normal state of being or your normal state of mind, and you have to kind of contend with that, and you have to adapt to that. So for me, it was absolutely transformative. I'm so grateful for it. Um, but at the same time, it's definitely hurt a lot of people financially, and so
Right.
it's a lot to contend with on all sides.
No, for real. It's been, I mean, like this cocooning of a cocooning experience where you're just forced to isolate and go within. And, even when you're out in public, it's social distancing and masks and everything, which I think is beautiful. It's just forcing isolation, which I think is it's hard to say it's like a good thing because just so many people have lost their lives, and so like you said, the economy and so much money has been lost and so many lives affected. So it's interesting, and I think it showed our whole society so much, like about the sustainable nature of our economies or the safety nets in our culture and how
Or
other
lack thereof.
countries compare. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, what it brings out of all of us, and yeah, seriously transformative experience.
Definitely, definitely. So what are you working on right now, as far as music goes, as far as like poetry or life or whatnot? What's going on for you?
So mainly I'm working on quite a few singles and a few collaborations. I've probably got like 10 songs that are almost done. I'm just kind of doing one by one, and I'm planning to put out like a mix, and like the collaborations are with some of my good friends, and I'm just trying to stay focused and kind of like envision a path forward, like step by step, like start doing, like maybe some really super small events that are outdoor and like safety enforced and all that. And I don't know, it's definitely interesting to navigate. And I don't know, I'm just kind of going day by day with everything being so in flux. It's really um, easy to maybe like think too far in the future, or think it's going to go back to this or that. And so I'm just um, kind of staying low key and focusing on finishing these songs.
Yeah. Yeah, and really that's all we can do is stay in the present moment. And um you can plan all you want, but with this whole pandemic, it's really hard to make future plans based
Yes,
on
yes.
the like because I don't even know if there's like any real projections of like how this is going to unfold. um I mean, you can't really rely on it anyways.
Right.
So it's it's really cool to um honestly, I feel it's cool. Like I personally think it's cool that we're more centered in the present moment and figuring out home base, our terrain,
Right.
our personal
Absolutely.
beliefs, limitations, conditioning, getting that in order, getting our relationship with our art more fine-tuned, um and, utilizing that, like
For real, it's
this
like
time to do that.
I feel like our whole culture prior to this, it's like very outward, like seeking answers, looking to other people, looking for entertainment, or even, cooking, everything, but in during all of this, we're forced to go inward. And I think that's a lot of it's just something that a lot of people haven't done, and especially in American culture. Not that it's necessarily like working on everyone. There's a lot of like chaos during all of this, and I think it's really highlighting the kind of like out of tune, out of like alignment parts of our culture. It's really like showing white supremacy and racism are still really real. People are very impatient and unempathic, and that's, I think, not surprising, like the way we are brought up and the things that they feed us through the media and through Hollywood and all of that. So I think it's important, I think, to do stuff like this to let other people know that the normal culture is kind of fading away and new stuff is popping up that's more conscious, more integrated, about people, holistic thinking. And I love that, like, the name of the podcast is like Tune In, because we're going inward during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really going in there. We're really tapping in.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's like I can sit here and say, yes, I've been tapping in. Yes, I've been honoring. I've been trying to address inconsistencies within myself, and I could say that I've been actually successful with some of these things. But does it mean that I'm a master? No, I'm never going to be a master. Like, it's just going to be an ever evolving process of continuing to go into those energies and those emotions and those memories, and kind of transmuting any of the dissonance that I have with those things, and becoming clear on almost embodying love, making love to those experiences, like honoring that those things had to happen the way they did in order for us to be in this space that we're in right now, and that there's some kind of greater plan. At least that's the way I look at it, and I'm sure you think similarly. And yeah, I don't know, what do you think about that?
100%. And especially now, I've really sensed in the last few weeks, like, we're past the first phase of all of this. It started in March, and April was crazy. And at this point, I'm starting to almost like get my feet underneath me again and really like tap into this newer energy, and like just kind of like letting the past go and thinking forward and moving towards like just a different world. Like, just even like with all these protests and stuff, it's shown me so much how things really could change and how many people really care.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really just the gatekeepers of our society that's holding us back. There's so many people that want a better world. It's undeniable now.
Yeah. Yeah. People are coming out in droves, and at least in the first
Right.
few weeks, the amount of people all across the country that were like, we're sick of this shit. We're sick of it. We are absolutely sick of it. And it had,
Exactly.
it's been people of color that have really been the driving force of this for so long. And I feel like it's reached such a critical mass now, with everyone, that people are not everyone. I can recognize that there's a lot of people that don't understand
Yeah.
so these issues, but it seems to have hit such a level that white people are actually affected.
Exactly. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's been going on since the dawn of our country, and it's just been snowballing, and it's a very like rich versus poor kind of issue as well. And it's just like the military industrial complex and the government is so overwhelmingly violent and corrupt, and people can't take it anymore. But just, I mean, the fact that we were in a pandemic and then they start like police just start killing people again, especially black people. It's like when it's already disproportionately leaned in that way. And to me, it's just like eye opening to see. I mean, first of all, to see them just kill us right out of the gate. And then we're doing a protest against police brutality, and to see the left police brutality in against the protesters is like, I think, terrifying. It's like the most corruption I've seen within my lifetime, like in real time. And yeah, I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter if you're being nice to them or you're an old lady, like they're gonna tear gas and mace you and shoot rubber bullets at you. And now there's like federal agents who are taking people into unmarked vans, and there's no real way to know what's going on with that. So
Yeah, and that's in
it's
Oregon,
crazy.
correct? That's
Yeah.
in Portland.
Yeah, that's in Oregon, and I'm hearing reports in Columbus as well. But it's so crazy in Portland that literally the mayor of Portland is trying to get the federal agents to leave, and they're not leaving. Like, the literal mayor can't get them to leave, and that's unconstitutional. So, I mean, obviously, the president and stuff, like I guess, leaders of the government, because I mean, I know there's some really progressive people in the Senate nowadays, who are voicing their opinions about like canceling rent, like providing $2,000 a month to people every month. You know, there's so many different things we could have done to avoid all this chaos, and now they're just escalating it with federal agents. It's seeming to me like they just want some chaos, because I mean, they know if they send in federal agents, it's just going to upset us more.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother thing that is very interesting to me, because it absolutely seems like that it's backfiring tremendously. And I don't know if this is, it's hard to say if this is on purpose, or if like Trump is literally this, or the administration is literally this freaked out that
Yeah,
people
I
have hit
seriously
this
cannot
level
tell.
of
Right.
fighting back.
No, I cannot tell at this point that like if Trump's trying to lose the election or like in the last few weeks, all of Trump's Twitter account posts have been about how the radical left have taken over Joe Biden's campaign, and they're saying like Joe Biden's controlled by the protesters, and all Joe Biden's going to defund the police and get to zero emissions and abolish ICE, and we can't have that. And I'm like, first of all, Joe Biden doesn't want to do any of those things. And it's eye opening to me that the government fears us, and the quote unquote radical left, people who just care about other people and don't want ICE to be around, like locking kids in cages. So to me, it's very eye opening that they're like, it's backfiring, and the protests have them like on their feet, on their toes.
Yeah. Were you involved in any of the protests?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, to be honest, because I left Denver at the end of May, and the protest just started that week, and I'm literally like packing my stuff while there's like it sounded like explosions downtown, just like Oh my gosh, it was insane. But the one I went to and at first was just a lot of tear gas, and they'd shoot rubber bullets at us and we would just run and we would march around a little bit, but it was literally just people standing there shouting and then the police attacking them. And it was so insane to see, especially like in Denver, a progressive city. Um, it's just sad to me. Like people were just trying to make their voices heard, and the first thing I saw when I rolled up on the protest was literally a girl getting like water poured onto her face so the tear gas wouldn't burn her eyes, and she's screaming bloody murder and there's explosions going off. It like felt like a war scene, to be honest. And then every night it continued, and it started to like roll into my neighborhood, and I started to get a little scared because they put in place a curfew. It's like 8 p.m. curfew. You can't go outside. No one can go outside. And then I had to travel across the country to Michigan when there's a nationwide like curfew thing happening.
Mm.
So it was all kind of like psychedelic. I don't know. It was like,
Yeah.
it would have been one thing if it was just protest, but I was like moving and I was like, are they going to have like martial law when I'm driving across the country? Like
Right.
what's going to happen?
Oh my God.
And I'm just kind of like trying to stay alive at that point. So I'm like, okay, the
Well, I'm
last
glad
few
you're
days,
back.
yeah. But I went to one in Detroit, and it was much more low key. No police were even there, but a lot of people and a lot of speakers, and just a lot of diversity and people showing up. So it's like, it's so cool to see it nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
What an amazing time, right?
Yeah. This is the craziest time I think ever. It's been building for years and years and decades, obviously, but since the protest, I feel this sense like just like something changed in the consciousness of this country, and people don't want to go back, especially our generation.
Yeah.
And even if we, go back to normal or whatever, I think the pressure is going to be on everyone. I mean, like, I want to say like the pressure is on the government, but like, not only is the government being like exposed, but like within our own communities, there's all these musicians who are having sexual allegations against them, and all these people standing up against corruption, I think. And
whether
it's
they're the
just that.
left or the right, or they're not even in that
Yep.
sphere of political happeningness, it's like I see like even from like people that are adamantly against the masks, like
Yeah.
even that, like I'm not very like I don't condone that, like that kind of
Right.
protest, but even that you have to kind of respect a little bit, because it's people that are like, hell no, I will not be conformed to do this thing that the government tells me that I should do, because the government has been proven to be corrupt and has misled us and has lied to us so many times.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why people don't wear a mask. Because I mean, first of all, in America, Donald Trump's the president. It's like we have an untrustworthy president who downplayed the pandemic at first. They said masks weren't important, so people were like, oh, blah blah. Oh, you're just making it up now. And I think what you're saying is so interesting, because it's true. It's like, as much as like no one really wants to hear that, it's like people are questioning more than ever because our government is so corrupt. And it's like, well, I don't expect people the blame is not on people. It's not on citizens. It's on the leadership of this country. That's the bottom line. And on top of the mask thing, people wouldn't be fighting over mask if we were like Canada and every citizen had $2,000 monthly payments. People like businesses are scrambling and conservative people are like already like feel like their rights are being infringed upon, so the mask thing is just like a cherry on top of a sundae or whatever. But it's insane. Like Americans are fighting over masks, and like Japan's like over the pandemic because they use masks. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not the only thing that they did, but
100%, so much cleaner, the testing was better, like tracing of
yeah,
people, containing people. Like, yeah, I'm definitely not a scientist. I am not a health expert. I don't know, what would have been the best thing to do. But at this point, seeing other countries start to like pretty much have like, I think like some countries have like 200 new cases a day, and we've got like, 70,000 a day.
right.
So,
Which is way different from the very beginning. I mean, do you remember how like
yes.
we were surprised at how much it was rising. And in the very beginning, it was like, I don't know, it was like 5,000 new cases today. It's like, wow, that's crazy. And now we're at 70,000, and it's like people are just protesting in the street for us to get back to normal. It's wild, wild. But I understand when you see the level of, the amount of deaths in comparison. I can see how people can see that and are like, well, it is something that people are going to get, and there's a few people that are going to die from it, but overall it doesn't deserve this huge lockdown, shut every business down kind of thing. And I think that's the perspective of these people that are avid non-mask wearers.
Right. And I mean, the thing that hasn't been vocalized enough, especially from the leadership of the country, is that the thing is the main issue is that we only have so many hospital beds, and we only have so much medical equipment
Mm-hmm.
and literal money for testing, and like literal swabs and like masks for nurses and stuff. And so in April, when things went south and sour, is when the hospitals started to hit capacity. And that's what we're just starting to see again in Florida, Arizona, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
the hotspots. And so that hasn't been talked enough about. So people are like, oh, there's high numbers, like it's, very low percentage of death, like we're fine. But in a perfect world, maybe that's true. But the issue is that within our privatized healthcare system, we do not have the funding, nor the people, nor the hospital bed numbers to keep up. And if that continues, that's where things can get bad.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think that it's something that a lot of people aren't able to see because there's not people that are going into hospitals with cameras. They're not allowed in there. There's we have to trust some of these nurses and these doctors that are the vast majority that are talking about this and explaining how serious it really is. The virologists, um, and there's definitely quite a few doctors and microbiologists and people that are discussing that like that it's like that the way we're handling this is wrong, and that the herd immunity thing, that all we have to do is just get the virus, and then in totality it'll be over. But I don't think that is a I mean, from my perspective, from what I've heard, is that the herd immunity may not even be achieved if we do that. And what is the cost?
Yep.
At what cost are we going to get that herd immunity? Um, and so, yeah, it's a tough thing. It's a tough decision, and I am somebody that myself, I do not want to get a coronavirus vaccine, knowing that it's probably going to be under tested. And I mean, you're going to go through the proper testing. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of I'm just talking in specifically of mandated vaccine. Um,
I mean, it's going to be one of the most rushed vaccines of all time.
right, right. So I can understand why people are upset about it. Um, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing that we'll all have to deal with and go through. And I'm sure people listening on this are questioning that or thinking about that, or maybe if they weren't thinking about it before, now they are. But what do you think is a way that in these trying times, so to speak, that we can tap into our center and um, not worry so much about the way the world is unfolding, because it's going to unfold in many strange ways. Um, so what recommendations do you have to people that are listening that can really tap in, tune um, in a way that makes them feel grounded in the state of time?
I think two main things. The first being consistent daily meditation practices. This can be anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes in the morning and evening, or, you know, finding some sort of, if you can't find a local teacher, obviously you can go online and find all these guided meditations, especially on YouTube. And there's like the Gaia Network now, which it's like spiritual Netflix, and they have yoga classes and all these different kinds of yoga that's like very like meditation oriented. And I think that to me has been the one thing that's kept me in the present moment and able to keep stability during the turbulence. It's like meditation, you might feel good during, or you might feel stressed during the meditation, but 4 hours later, when something's stressing you out, you might have like 5 to 10% more calmness because of that meditation. And if you do that over time, that can turn to 20%, 50%, 70% over a decade, just keeping in your body, focused on your breath in the present moment. Just even being able to, even if you don't like meditation, focusing on your breath 3 or 4 times as much as you can remember can be one of the most expansive things. Because you just learn how to slow down. Or I feel like our culture is so impatient with everything. But also, I think the second thing for me is following a passion, or like finding your own kind of like creative outlet. And I mean, for me, that is music. And I've been thinking about how, because I have this outlet of music during all this time, it's helped me channel a lot of the feelings, thoughts, emotions that we all have been going through. And as someone like I'm energetically sensitive or empathic or whatever, I feel like I tap into the collective consciousness a lot, and I need an outlet. And for me, like creating something, and or just like, if it's your career, like how can we create again? How can we become creators again? And how can we use the creation to help the world? And I think a lot of people are questioning, like, well, my career path does nothing for the world. Like, even me as a musician, I'm like, I kind of feel helpless, like in the scheme of things and like the changing laws and economies and stuff. Like a musician's just kind of in the background. So it really has made me question. And I think this stuff, like podcasts and just like being vocal and even music, is just a great path forward for a lot of people to be able to get involved politically or spiritually, or just inspiration, whatever it is, self-help, or just speaking your mind. It's like, find an outlet for yourself that can better the world, because that's what we really need. We, like, the old systems of the world are crumbling, and we need people out there who are living the solutions that we need. And we need so many different kinds of things happening that we need literally millions of people to start getting involved in their local communities and the greater collective of humanity to just usher in this new age of like empowerment and I think justice, equality, equity, equal rights for people. Like the old ways have not worked out for the majority of people on the planet, and we need new systems.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I truly believe in meditation and breath. Breath to me is medicine. I wrote a song about breath is medicine.
Yeah.
And it has since 2013, 13 or 14, I started meditating, and I recognized, I remember when I recognized the power of meditation, and it just made me feel so good, like so in my power, so in my spirit. I was like, wow,
Yes.
I can just relax. Like, this is great. And I'm somebody that has I can have anxiety from time to time, and sometimes it's really bad. And now I've developed this way of relying on my breath, that whenever a situation is going to be stressful, or I think it's going to be stressful, I automatically breathe. It's totally automatic now. I've trained my brain to just, and not a quick breath, but be with it, all the way in and all the way out with the stomach. And
I think that alone can change someone's life like 180 degrees. Like I want to say 360, but you're just like going back to the same thing. It's like because that little bit of space that you give your mind, you give yourself like this quick like perspective shift. Yes. And like open yourself to different possibilities, and that little bit of space opens your imagination, I think, to navigate any situation like more harmoniously. Like, like when you're in harmony with something, it's like a different frequency that you're like bouncing off of. And, it's like you don't have to be the same as everyone, but you can like shift your energy a little bit and kind of like recalibrate and not let things get so heavy.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool. And if people are interested in ways to help their meditation practice, there's a specific video that I use when I go to sleep that's uses binaural beats. Binaural beats, if anybody doesn't know, it's like you have one tone in one ear and another tone in another ear, and your brain actually creates a third tone. And when you do that, the specific frequencies that are put out, you can find this on YouTube, you can find it all over the internet. But different frequencies connect with different chakras, and they can, by listening to this, mixed with breathing, it allows for those blockages to be released. If you're interested in that, I'll put that in the description as well, of this podcast.
I love that. I feel like, I mean, chakras are kind of woo woo or like out there, even for like people who are just getting into meditation. But once I literally started doing like chakra meditations, it was mind blowing to me how much more I could stabilize in the physical world, especially doing my lower chakras, my root and sacral and solar plexus chakra. That like anchored me. I felt like into the moment and in conversations, and it made me feel like more confident and grounded and rooted truly. I would be like in conversations with people and I'd feel my like meditation chakra practices like activate and like stabilize me. Wow. And it was kind of trippy to me to experience. So I can't recommend like chakra meditations enough. Like that stuff is real.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely put that in the description below. I just wanted to make a quick shout out to a couple of people that are sponsoring this podcast. Veteran Ceilings is a band in Grand Rapids, a local band. Um, and Dean Chittenberg, Chittenden, sorry. He's a Michigan native, singer-songwriter, pianist. And he helped, create this band. And I think we've played with them a few times, at least at open mic at O'Toole's. But yeah, they released a new album in May called Ball Burned Out. I'll put this all in the description. But they're like indie electronic jazz influenced music and focuses on like folk and indie rock, Americana. So they got a lot of different styles. I just listened yesterday to some of their recordings, and I dig it. I dig it a lot. But yeah, they ended up sponsoring this podcast. So I wanted to give a shout out to them and bless them, for helping us out here. Yeah, they're awesome.
Support your local musicians.
Yes. And they're supporting you back. And then also another person that is helping us on this podcast that is sponsoring is my friend Joseph Lemieux. He has a business called Lemieux Smithing. He's literally a blacksmith that makes these really cool knives and swords, and he's just been a really good friend for a long time. And he can literally make you custom pieces, really nice work. He does restoration as well. So if you have a knife that's like super dull and like it's old, he can rework that. So I'll put that in the description below. And thank you, Joseph Lemieux, for helping us support this podcast. Yeah.
I love stuff like that. I love it. When people create things, and I just think our culture is so used to consuming, like consumeristic, materialistic American culture, just we are disconnected from what we consume. So imagine if you knew, like, you're eating your food and you like know who made your spoon, like who made your plate, where your food's coming from, I think we need to localize everything as a whole world. Like, yeah, I love Joseph's stuff. That's cool.
That's really what I'm trying to do in my own personal life. I really want to get as to the root as possible. Get to the root. Get to tune in, tune into the root of who you are, and then express that out and find other people, connect with them. And then we have this learning process that takes place that ends up rippling out into the world and changing the world for the better.
That's all it takes. It's like we're all weaving this big tapestry, and each of us are like threading our own.
I like that a lot.
Like part of the fabric or whatever, but we're all like threading it together and weaving this like great like collective consciousness, like new paradigm, and it's like it's connected. It's like this cosmic tapestry, because I mean, like, we wouldn't exist without the sun and the planet and the ecosystems being stable. And it's just like I try to more and more think of myself as like as my total environment, or at least like my body and stuff. It's like your body doesn't exist without oxygen. You don't exist without food or water or your like local environment or your community. Like, I would be nothing without my friends and my community. And I just think we're all much more connected to everything than we realize.
Well, Ashton, thank you for being community. Thank you for being a friend and jumping on this podcast and chatting with me today. I'm really excited for all this to come. So,
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, honestly. And thank you for following your heart and doing this, man. This is so cool.
all right. I hope you have a wonderful day. All you at home. I hope you take some of these things that you've learned and tap in, tune in, and be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.